Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Good Old Podcast. I'm Jacquie Franciulli for Wahoo's 24/7. And Virginia failed for the first time this season, losing to NC State 35-31. And it was a tough, heartbreaking loss for UVA, who had the win in its grasp and will feel like they left plenty of opportunities on the field. And we're going to be discussing that game today. Before we get going here, why don't you go ahead and like this video, like this channel, and click on the bell so that you're notified whenever a new video is selected, and go leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you want more detailed coverage from these games, also head over to Wahoo's 24/7. We'll have comprehensive coverage on the recruiting trail as well on football Saturdays and leading up to the games on Saturday. But because I think this was a big game to kind of break down, I'm actually having a guest today. I am bringing on Daily Progress's Greg Madia. Greg, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, Jackie, happy to do it. It was a big game. It was a good game. Big game.
Yeah, I feel like it was a big game. I don't quite agree that it was a make it or break it game for Virginia, but I definitely agree it was a big game. And I think we need to start off with that because it feels like watching, listening to people on social media, obviously looking at the message boards, it feels like the fans put a lot of importance in this game. But I don't feel like UVA's season is over by any stretch of the imaginations because they lost out on the road against NC State.
No, I think if there's a positive takeaway is that the offense looked pretty good. Right from start to finish. I know late you had the interception with Chandler Morris through. You couldn't get the the 4th and 1 conversion there on the toss play to Jamari Taylor in the fourth quarter. And you missed the field goal late too. If you're Virginia, so that's frustrating. But overall, the offense, right? It was an even split: 257 passing yards, 257 rushing yards against an NC State defense, which you thought going in is pretty good. And you also saw you can convert on third down, 13 of 19 on third down, a lot of third and longs, Jackie. There were a lot of encouraging signs for the offense. The defense had a dismal day against NC State. And that's what's frustrating is you saw some promise, and Virginia had a halftime lead, a 10-point halftime lead, and it slipped away in the third quarter while Virginia really struggled to stop NC State's running game. And that's an issue that'll have to be cleaned up moving forward. I think that's kind of where the frustration is you saw the talent was pretty comparable Saturday, I would think, and Virginia couldn't get it done, and it's been a lot of frustration in Tony Elliott's tenure for the fans, especially in close games, right? How many one score games we've talked about over the years since Tony Elliott's become the coach, right? The Louisville games popped out, the NC State game in Charlottesville a couple of years ago pops out as games the fans would love to have. And I think Virginia, after blowing out Coastal Carolina, its fan base probably felt like if you could go beat NC State on the road, a team that's always in a postseason under Dave Darn, right? Always playing for something at the end of the year. That then maybe you can start to turn the corner and believe a little bit. And 4-point loss is as frustrating as it is. Probably discouraged the fan base a little bit. But I do agree with you. A lot in front for Virginia, and I think some things they can build on going forward.
Yeah, I just think when I would look at the schedule initially, I thought NC State would have been the game as a barometer as saying where the areas need to improve on. When you have over 50 new athletes coming to a roster, I felt like this game we're still going to have those issues. That's why I didn't think this was the big make it or break it game for Virginia, especially because the schedule how it lines up the rest of the season for UVA. I thought it's an agreeable schedule with only 2 flights if you think about it to Louisville and Cal. So you have other Carolina trips. I do think this was a good chance for Virginia to see how they stack up in the trenches. I mean, one thing I was really impressed of is seeing this offensive line who didn't substitute that often in this game. We saw more substitutions against Coastal Carolina, as you can imagine. But for the most part, it was the 4 out of the 5 starters were there for all the snaps. The only times at right tackle, they switched Eaton Sipe and Jack Whitmer around a little bit after Wallace Unamba wasn't ready to go. And I think that, for me, was the biggest thing, and I'm gonna bring up the stats here for you on YouTube. Those are available there, and if you're not on Wahoo's 24/7, the scoreboard is available there. But, I mean, when you look at what they were able to do in the run game, I mean, Jamari Taylor obviously did a lot on his own. I mean, he's a beast in himself, but, I mean, I did a feature called First and 10, and one of the touchdowns I highlighted was Jamari Taylor's where Jamal Edrin, Cam Ross, and Brady Wilson had crucial blocks that allowed Jamari Taylor to kind of bulldoze his way in. And I feel like that's been the difference. Not only is the O line been better, but also guys are blocking better with the wide receivers. I mean, there's more buy into that aspect of the game. So I think that's where I am, where I see like that side of the trenches has shown improvement. And I like what Des Kitchings is able to do with what he now has.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's doing a really nice job, and the position coaches too, of mixing and matching and getting different players involved. One of the play calls really early in the game. I don't know if it was the second quarter, but after they opened the game with a touch pass, a jet sweep to Cam Ross. A little bit later on, they went to a play where they put Cam Ross in motion and then handed the ball in the opposite direction to Noah Vaughn, and he had a 20-yard run. There were a lot of things from Des Kitchings' perspective that were really good on Saturday, and I think anytime you convert right 13 third downs and 19 opportunities, it's going to be a good day for the offense, right? 514 total yards. I think it's the third time in Elliott's tenure that they eclipsed the 500-yard mark of total offense. And that's a positive. I think quarterback wise, Chandler Morris, I thought he was really, really good up until the last throw, right? And after going back and watching it and talking to Jamari Taylor, he felt like he was open. And when you watch the play back, you can see the window for a split second. Morris just held the ball about ball like maybe a second and a half too long, and then under threw the pass. So that's going to happen, right? Late game situation. You're trying to make a play. You're trying to win a football game. You're going to have that from time to time. But I think Virginia's in good hands at quarterback. That I wouldn't hold that one mistake against Chandler Morris as the rest of the year continues. He's been really efficient with the football. He's completing like 70% of his throws. He's got 3 touchdown passes. He's doing a nice job in the running game. He's Virginia's second leading rusher behind Jamari Taylor. And I think when you have that threat of Morris knowing when to take off with the football, it's a really nice compliment to Taylor in the running game and really stresses opposing defenses. So I like what they're doing on offense. Just the big problem Saturday, Jackie, and probably why they lost the football game is they didn't tackle in the running game. They didn't take good angles and pursue Hollywood Smothers appropriately and CJ Bailey appropriately. That to me is what stuck out is the defense really struggled against the run. After taking it a stride forward, I thought last year, run defense wise, it was a step backward in that department. Maybe part of it is so many new players playing together for the first time. Maybe it is some younger players out there, right? Landon Danley's out there, linebacker, and only his second career start. Maybe some of it's that, but Virginia's got to clean up the run defense. That just can't happen if you're gonna win if you're gonna win more games this year.
No, no, for sure. I'm bringing up the defensive stats here, and we say that James Jackson led the way with 8 tackles, Devin Neal, Landon Danley, and Jameer Carter with 6 apiece. No sacks. Again, that's been an issue getting the pressure. They did have 4 quarterback hurries. And it seems sometimes, Greg, when you watch back, it seems like sometimes they were in the right position to, it seems like getting the pressure, but either they didn't make the tackle or they didn't close in. If either there was hesitation or just a little bit too slow. But that when you rewatch, it felt a little frustrating because you see them almost getting that last step, but not quite doing it.
Yeah, Mitchell Melton had CJ Bailey kind of wrapped up in the backfield, it looked like. He went a little high, though, and Bailey was able to slip through the tackle. Then Bailey bounced off Jason Hammond and made it back to the line of scrimmage in a situation Virginia probably should have had Bailey sacked for a loss of 7, and it ended up being a no gain play. And then the obvious one, right, a little bit later in the third quarter, Landon Danley's coming off the edge as a blitzer, has a clear path to CJ Bailey. Bailey sidesteps. It was a bad angle by Danley. He didn't break down. And then Bailey skirts past him for a 12-yard touchdown run. Those are the kind of things that Virginia's got to get cleaned up here, especially when you look a little bit, when you start looking into the next couple of weeks and you get the ACC opponents again after Saturday's game against William and Mary.
Yeah, when you look at these stats for NC State, I mean, they had 216 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, it was quite something seeing Hollywood Smothers and CJ Bailey also was able to kind of do on it as well. Receivers kind of had a lot of space there. when you saw them, they were able to kinda get these plays. They didn't even need to go to 3rd down. I mean, they finished 1 of 7.
Yeah.
They were
And
able
and Virginia's been good in third down defense, right? I believe they're first in the country in third down defense. But in this situation, right, like you said, NC State didn't have a lot of third down opportunities. So Virginia's got to do better on first and second down, and mostly that's against the run. There's just too many poor angles, too many bad tackles. And Tony Elliott knows it. He talked yesterday when I asked him about the run defense. He said, they know they kind of got to clean it up, and they know they have to take ownership of that. And I think it's vital for this season, right? In 2020 free. The run defense was bad. What was it? They gave up 184 rushing yards per game. Opponents were running wild. Last year it was a step forward. It was up to they reduced that to 145 yards on the ground per game. They only gave up more than 200 rushing yards in a game twice. Once was against Notre Dame, and then the other was against Virginia Tech. Late, at the end of last year when they were really banged up and battered injury wise. So I don't think, Virginia's got to make sure that doesn't become a season-long problem, the run defense, and got to get it cleaned up now, and make sure it's right. It could be, it's going to be a little tricky, right? You have so many new players, so many new faces, but that's got to get right. And especially because it's correctable things, right? Like the tackling and the angles. I think Pro Football Focus, I was looking at it yesterday, had of the 11 starters, uh, 8 of them had a tackling grade of less than 60%. That that's not good. I think only Jameer Carter, Fisher Kamak, and James Jackson were north of 60% in the tackling department. That's gotta be better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's basically clear-cut technique here. Missed assignments, bad angles, and missed tackles. Things that can get cleaned up. That's why this is also the game where I feel like you see what's wrong, and then you can move forward and adjust second season. That's why I don't feel like this is make it or break yet for Virginia. And when you look at what Virginia was able to do on occasion on defense, I mean, in the second quarter, they had 2 quick 3 and outs.
Yeah.
Where they allowed the Virginia offense to get up by 10 points, and then in the 4th quarter, they were able to keep NC State out, so they did have a chance. I mean, one play that I really wanna highlight was there was a bench route that NC State had success against Devin Neal where they threw to Jolly early on in the game, and Devin Neal was caught. They tried that play again in the 4th quarter, and Devin Neal had a pass breakup. Those are the things that you see they're learning, they're adjusting, and you saw some improvement. I think that's where you kinda get hope as far as the defensive side of the ball goes.
Yeah, and I think I know we've talked about this a little bit. I think they gotta kinda figure out their rotations up front. We talked about this, just in the press box the other day. Is how often Virginia was rotating its defensive linemen. They're deeper, undoubtedly deeper on the front, and that is a good thing. That's a positive. I think they're just trying to figure out how to use all their defensive linemen. That to me is what Virginia's trying to figure out defensively too. Is when do you sub in Rickert and Kazim Moore at end? When do you find a way to get Anthony Britton in the game? And figure out the right situations for Jacob Holmes, instead of every 2 or 3 plays you see a wave of new defensive linemen coming on and off the field. I think that's tough, especially the other day, right? It's 100 degrees out on the field. It was hot. It was toasty. I was on the field pregame. It was really hot.
It was 102 degrees on the field pregame.
Yeah, it was toasty. So I understand wanting to get defensive linemen in and out. Just got to figure out the right way to do it.
Right, and also you gotta think, I mean, it's 102 degrees on the field and you're having these guys run back and forth. Are you really giving them legs? And, I mean, I got tired just walking. I can't imagine running back and forth before you get a delay of game here, so that is something that, maybe put into consideration. But, yeah, that was something that, I like you said, we talked a little bit in the press box that I feel like the defense is still learning what they have and trying to figure out the right combination for what the situation they have. I mean, just look at what we have in the depth chart this week. It's the cornerback position has changed again where Donovan Plant or Emmanuel Carnley on the left side and Jordan Robinson on the other side when it was originally Jordan Robinson, Emmanuel Carnley with Donovan Platt as number 2. Then it became Donovan Platt as number 1 or Jordan Robinson and Emmanuel. I mean, they're still trying to figure things out on that side of the ball. While the offensive side, it looks like Des Kitchings has found his groupings. I think that's been the most impressive thing when I think about this offense is that Des Kitchings had all the new pieces And he finally has an O-line that can give him time for Chandler Morris to kinda lead this offense, and he's been able to find how exactly to put those pieces in. I mean, in 3rd down, when you looked at the wide receivers out there, you had Eli Wood, Dylan Newton Short, and you had Jaden Thomas. I mean, he was able to know exactly what he wanted to see out there, and it's been kinda cool to see what situations mean what group of playmakers are out there for Virginia.
Yeah, how about Sage Ennis catching a touchdown too, right? You'd think all these options for Virginia, right? Cam Ross, the speedster, Trell Harris, excellent pass catcher, Jamal Edrine, big physical wide receiver, Jamari Taylor, right? To give him the ball on a day, he's scored a bunch of touchdowns, and you have Sage Ennis go out there and make a catch. So in the end zone. To me, I think it's been encouraging if you're a Virginia fan to see the progress on offense as the talent has been enhanced. I think that's the biggest takeaway from the first 2 weeks, and particularly Saturday's game against NC State is against a defense that's been pretty good. I know they got a new defensive coordinator there in Raleigh, right? Tony Gibson became the Marshall head coach, and DJ Elliott's now the DC there. I think it's encouraging because NC State's always been good, always been pretty tough defensively, and you found a way to move the football really really well, 500 plus yards of total offense.
Greg, we're gonna take a quick break here, but on the other side, we're gonna continue talking about the offense, since they had a pretty productive day, and I feel like it's being lost a little bit in the shuffle of the discussion. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to the Good Old Podcast. I'm Jacquie Franciulli. He's Greg Madia, and we're talking about Virginia's loss against NC State. So before the break, we're talking a little bit about the offense and how productive they were, and just how Des Kitchings have been able to use his new faces, new weapons he's been able to use with the addition of the O line. Brady Wilson, ironically, was the only new transfer that played against Virginia, against NC State, if you don't count obviously Drake Metcalf and Ethan Syke, who came in last offseason. But one stat that really kinda summarized how Virginia dominated that first half when you think offensively is the time of possession, because Virginia's won the overall time of possession, but NC State had the ball 9 minutes and 56 seconds in that first half. UVA had it for over 20 minutes. And that was the best defensive performance if you think about it, because that means Virginia had the ball the whole time. And I think that's where they kind of missed the boat a little bit when you look at that first drive in the 3rd quarter where they didn't run the ball once. And Jamari Taylor only had 5 carries the entire second half.
Yeah, one ended up being a 66-yard touchdown run.
Right.
Yeah, no, and it, I mean, it helps. He Taylor gives them something different. Like, he can get a lot of things to look right. I think because there were times it appeared he would be tackled for no gain or perhaps even a loss, and he finds a way to push forward. Even the touchdown run in the first quarter, the game's first points, it looked like NC State might have had him bottled up near the line of scrimmage, and he bounces off 2 defenders before cutting outside and racing to the pylon. He allows Virginia to do some things in the running game. Of course, the O line is a little better, but he can make some of the blocking look right too, which is a luxury to have back there, and I think it's why he's probably become the clear cut top running back. Right, there was some thought going into the year that it might be more of a 1-2 punch, Taylor first, then Xavier Brown. It hasn't been that, right? It's Taylor. Taylor is the premier feature back, and Brown and Noah Vaughn have been coming off the bench. Saw Harrison Whaley off the bench in week 1. Didn't see him this past week. So to me, I think the running game has helped a lot with that, and they just got to keep going to it. And like you said, early in the 3rd quarter, it probably would have been smart. But other than that, it's hard to complain about the play calling when you go for over 500 yards, and who knows if Morris throws that ball, a click faster or a second faster, and hits Taylor in the end zone. You're talking about a whole different day for Virginia, and you're probably talking about how good the offense plays, bailed out the defense.
Right, yes. This would have been a whole different podcast, Greg, if that touchdown pass would have been completed, and it would have been a very happy fan base that we'll be dealing with this week. But there is one questionable decision that I think everyone has made note of, which was on going for a field goal up to 5 rather than trying to attempt for a 4th and goal. I think that one was an interesting decision. I mean, Will Bittridge is a guy that you can count on inside the 40-yard line, but that was a 47-yard field goal that would have tied his career long. And I think that's one where I think even now you go analytics is saying, "Go for it," and Virginia decided to kick, and that's one where, like, when you're a tight game like this, I think they should have gone for it.
Yeah, for his career, he's 11 of 17 on kicks longer than 40 yards. That's not a great rate if you're betting on getting the 3 points and coming within 1, right? Because that kick would have made it 35-34. And I understand Tony Elliott's logic of thinking, "Hey, if you can get a field goal here, great, because then you're only down 1 and you can win it with a field goal." The problem is you don't have a kicker that can consistently boot the ball, right, from 40 yards plus. He's terrific inside of 40 yards. He's proven that throughout his career. It's been a little more hit or miss from 40 plus. So I think that was an opportunity, especially because the offense was really going and really running strong at that point, right? NC State hadn't shown it can consistently stop the offense to that point. Give the offense another shot there, and see if you can move the football for a first down, and then maybe once you get inside the 40, if you have to settle for a field goal, that's fine. But that was you know maybe within his range of what he's shown in practice and at times in his career, but not consistent enough to gamble on that, to get it to a point where you're very confident in it.
Yeah, I think that's still something that is bear to watch as a red zone sometimes decisions. I think Virginia has improved in that area just because of the playmakers that they have, but when you look at what happened on Saturday, they still left points on the board.
Yeah.
So I think that is still an area
I
where is a concern there.
The toss, it's interesting, the toss to Taylor, right, on the 4th and 1, that was after the Betridge missed field goal. Uh, the toss to Taylor was the same play he scored the touchdown on last week, the previous week against Coastal Carolina. It just was flipped to the other side, is what Jamari had told me after the game. So I understand, like, you've seen it work, you've seen him get a yard on it.
It's like the Grady bunch without Grady.
Right, and that's the other part of it too, is they're missing the Brusterhouse package, which had helped them in short yardage situations, last year, but he's been out the first 2 weeks. So, to me, I don't blame them for trying that, but with Jamari Taylor and how he'd been going downhill, I guess you can question whether or not that was the right call, but to me, I didn't have a problem with it just because you'd seen it work before.
Yeah, I didn't have the problem with that play call either, and when you have a guy like Jamari Taylor having the day like he's having, you automatically wanna give him the ball, right? He's seen him successful, so you wanna give the guy who's been able to do it. I think there was one play, I think it was actually in the 2nd quarter, when it was 3rd and 5, where I think that was the other field goal that they kicked. They went really conservative on a 3rd and 5, if I remember correctly. And I think that's where they ran Jamari Taylor rather than throwing the ball when they've been successful on 3rd down for pretty much the whole day. I think those are the conservative play calls that I'm like, "Okay, maybe go a little bit maybe you forgot what you had this Kitchings and had a little bit of, a flashback to last year." I think that's where I go, but honestly, I can't sit here and dissect the offense when they scored 31 points on the road,
Yeah.
and they had a great day on 3rd down. And it controlled the time of possession, they ran the ball. I mean, everything that Virginia needed to do offensively, all those keys to the game for Virginia, I mean, they did.
Yeah, to me, Saturday's loss is as simple as fix the run defense, right? You just can't have that many missed tackles. I think it, I mentioned the Pro Football Focus numbers, that I'd seen, and the 60% or worse tacklers, the 8 of them, I think they combined for 14 missed tackles in Saturday's loss. The defensive 8 of the defensive starters, like that cannot happen. Like those are things that you have to be able to count on. And Virginia's got to get that cleaned up. Undoubtedly, they got to get that cleaned up. That's the, if you're gonna sit here and dissect the offense and the end of the game situations. I think it's the reason why they lost the game is the run defense. Simple as that.
Run defense and just figure out what your best combinations really are and don't overthink it. I think there's a lot of overthinking on that side of the ball. And before I let you go, Greg, I'm putting up the schedule because that is the big thing, right? Is yeah, the rest of the season. And again, you have William Mary this weekend. I apologize to William Mary that we haven't really dissected them, but William Mary, then you have Stanford as your opening ACC game, which Virginia is favored, a night game at Scott Stadium. Then you have at Florida State at home before you have at Louisville. I mean, they could be 2 out of 4 in that situation.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, Louisville, Florida State is in the top 10 this week. Louisville is getting top 25 votes. I voted for Louisville this week. They were impressive, especially particularly defensively against James Madison on Friday night. I it's a tougher slate all of a sudden because Florida State is better. But I still think the back half is very, very manageable.
Yeah.
And you could get to 7 wins. I really still think all that's in play.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like looking at the second half of the season, Washington State at North Carolina, again, an easy road trip because you're not flying. At Cal, that is one that I've had circled as I think on paper Virginia should win, but the traveling to Cal, having all that, I know they're going a day earlier than normal, but still, it's a manageable game. Wake Forest at home, at Duke, and then Virginia Tech at home, and that's coming off a bye week, which historically this staff has been very good coming out of a bye week. I mean, we've seen all these teams play, and this is all really I mean, even Duke. I mean, watching Duke against Illinois, I know Illinois is a good team, but there are chances now with what we were able to see about Virginia. So 6, 7 wins, a bowl game is still in the cards here. Losing to NC State does not take that out.
No, I agree with you. I didn't think they going into the NC State game, I thought that would be a very, very tough game for them and one that would come down to the end. They'd be in the game, but one that NC State would win. That was my thought going into it. And I still have Virginia pegged for 7 wins this year. I still think it's going to be a successful overall season and a step in the right direction for Tony Elliott as he starts to get this thing try to get this thing built in the right direction. I think there's still a lot positive. And as long as that running back stays healthy, as long as they can keep Jamari Taylor healthy, they'll have a shot each week.
So Jamari Taylor and Chandler Morris both need to be bubble wrap for the rest of the season, right?
Yeah,
Protect them at
undoubtedly.
all costs.
Yeah. And I think this week too, it's important. I can't stress it enough. The run defense, got to fix it. Tyler Hughes, the William Mary quarterback, just to throw this in there, Jackie, elusive, athletic player. He's had a couple of long runs early in the season. So you want to see Virginia figure it out, right? CJ Bailey gave him some trouble with his legs. You want to see if Virginia can be a little more decisive in those situations against Hughes and William and Mary. I know it's an FCS opponent, but got to get it corrected.
Yeah, and you also can't overlook FCS opponents either. I mean, some of them have made some, issues for other teams as well. But yeah, this will be a good chance for them. I know they want to play a lot of different guys and probably will in this game, but also try to settle in on that defense, on what works and what doesn't, because Cam Robinson's not ready yet to come back. He is back at practice. Tony Elliott said he is, and they're hopeful that he'll be back by Stanford, which will be great news for Virginia. Will probably help in
That'll help the run defense.
yeah, I was gonna say that will help the run defense, but I mean, you have a couple games before he is back, and he's also gonna be needing game conditioning too, so you're not expecting him to play as much snaps as you probably would if fully healthy, so but yeah, that will certainly happen, and another injury of note, is offensive lineman Wallace Unamba. He, is questionable for the game. He might be a week or 2 from returning, so it seems like that Stanford game is one to circle for a lot of the guys possibly coming back, and David Wohlabaugh is still in recovery from his surgery, so he's not expected to play for a few weeks. I think Tony Allen mentioned about waiting until the bye week to really see if he'll be back at practice. So we expect Jack Whitmer and Ethan Sipe to kind of pair off in that right tackle position. But Greg, thank you so much. It seems like we both agree that NC State loss, although is a isn't great. It wasn't a big deal in the large scheme of things when you look to the rest of the season. We still have I think we're both predicting still around 7 games for UVA.
Yep. No, I think there are some positives. Frustrating for the fan base that they couldn't pull it off. But I still think there are things to be optimistic about if you're a Virginia fan and you watch this past Saturday.
Well, Greg, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and talking and breaking down the game with me.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jackie.
And of course, remember, we'll have full coverage from Virginia's William and Mary game on Wahoo's 24/7. We'll be right back here on the Good Old Podcast next week as we look forward to Virginia's ACC opener against Stanford, which will be a 7:30 p.m. kickoff at Scott Stadium. So for right now, he's Greg Madia. I'm Jacquie Franciulli, and hope you guys have a good rest of your week.